Hi there. Took off the glasses because I plan on filming 3 videos today and I wanted it to look slightly different, but whatever. We're here to do, well, my name's Melina and we're here to do my July wrap-up. I read, 14 and a half books, 1 novella, and 1 short story. So this has been one of my most successful reading months. A lot of it was done during booktube-a-thon, obviously, and surprisingly I've done a lot better being in school, because I thought my reading was going to suffer in school, but I did a lot better than usual while being in school, so that was rad. Okay, let's get started, because I don't want this video to be forever, because the booktube-a-thon wrap-up was long, but that's because I had a lot of stuff to get through, like, challenge-wise and stuff like that, too. But, okay, let's start. The first book I read in July was Stop Pretending What Happened When My Big Sister Went Crazy by Sonia Sones. She usually has kind of long titles for her books. Sonia Sones was the first YA author I've ever read in my life, back when I was like 10 or something. And she is one of my favorite contemporary writers of all time. This is one of my few books that I haven't read by her. I think haven't read 2 books by her now. And this is actually kind of semi-autobiographical because it's about her sister and kind of told through her point of view. I loved almost everything about this book. I think the main thing that frustrated me, besides the fact that it's so short that it feels like it's over as soon as it begun, is that her name was Cookie, and I hated that. It irked me. I mean, I get that there's probably people out there in real life who have that name, but whatever. But yes, I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I finally did it, dudes. I did it. I read Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin O'Leary Sands. These very long titles. This was gorgeous. It was beautiful. I was hesitant because, sure, this is one of the most overhyped books in the nation, especially if you want to look at, like, queer literature. Queer literature starring 2 Latino boys, like, yes, thank you. Yeah. You know, because usually people think gay, they think white people, and that shouldn't be where your mind goes immediately. So as a queer Hispanic lady, I loved that, seeing that rep in this book. But I had seen that Emma from Emma Books reviewed this pretty poorly, and I take her opinions very seriously because I tend to have the same reading taste as her, so I was kind of hesitant. I downed this book in like 2 days. I absolutely freaking loved the writing. I loved the characters. The only thing was there wasn't much of a plot. Like, it was just kind of random things happening. Like, there wasn't like a gist. And I thought that it would be a bit more romancy, and that it wasn't that you kind of got that only in the last 2 pages. But I will completely not give a crap about it only being the last 2 pages if I actually enjoy the sequel that is apparently coming out soon. I will die. I loved this so much. It's won a bunch of awards and is overhyped for a reason. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just realized I'm kind of not really summarizing these. The other one, it says in the title, it's what happens when a girl who is in her teens, her big sister, kind of gets admitted to a mental institution, and everyone knows what Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe is. So yeah. Next, damn, I had a good reading month, because most of these are either 4.5 or 5 out of 5 stars. Like, almost all of them are like nearly perfect ratings, because there was some good shit I was reading this month. I rented from the library, so it went as an ebook on the library. Saga Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is one of the most overhyped comic series amongst people who don't really read comics, like book readers. And I didn't think I would like it. I thought that it was too overhyped, like, and that I would just kind of think of it in the same realm as like Harry Potter and be like, it was too overhyped for me. Plus, I'm not into sci-fi usually, so I went into this. Usually I buy comics because I usually know I'm gonna like them, but I was hesitant about this, but I wanted to see what the hype was, so I rented it from the library. I eat every single word that I said negative about this, because this was one of the greatest comics I've ever read, and I read comics all the damn time. Look at my channel name. This is basically kind of a star-crossed lover story about two people on the opposite ends of an alien war, like an alien space war, falling in love and having a kid that is technically illegal, and you get it from the perspective of the child, and it is so good. It is so beautiful. I want to own it. I immediately went to Second and Charles looking for it, and I will pay full price for that. I loved it so much. Yes, 5 out of 5 stars. Okay. Next, I read Overwhelming Force by Janie Crouch. It's a Harlequin novel from the Intrigue series. I read a physical copy of this. It's like one of those little paperbacks that I was showing in my haul that they're all pretty and purple. But I think I accidentally packed it in a box and I can't find it. This is my second kind of Harlequin novel, so I thought it would be a lot more raunchy than it was. There was only 2 sex scenes, and it wasn't even sex scenes. They just alluded to the fact that they had sex. This is basically what intrigued me, so that out of this giant stack of Harlequin books that I got, I immediately picked this one up first, was the fact that it is about a guy who does hostage negotiations. He's part of this force, and they send him in whenever there's hostage situations going on, and he kind of has to talk to the people who are holding people hostage and kind of convince them to let people go. And it starts off, and he's on a case, going to a bank hostage thing, and one of the hostages there is his ex-girlfriend from 5 years ago that he's still in love with, and and then the plot of the book is somebody is framing him, and the girlfriend from a couple years ago, she's a lawyer, so she's helping him out. It was cheesy, and the main character, he was so stupid. I can't. But I loved it. There was so much action, there was so much going on. If you want something fun that's a really addictive action movie that also has a really good romance plot and has good characterization, even though he was an idiot, he was still well fleshed out. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. This solidified the fact that I'm just totally trash for Harlequin novels, and I will read them all, every single one that I own. Next, because I wanted to see the movie, and I still haven't, and it's in the cheap theaters now, and I'm hoping I can see it before it's gone forever, but my sister wants to see it, so there's a bunch of conflict, whatever, is Everything, Everything by Nicole Yoon. I've heard a lot of people have problems with this and say that it's problematic and stuff like that. I left the mother of all book reviews, because it was one of the longest I've written in a long time, or I think ever, I don't know, on Goodreads. If you want to read that, I'll probably link my Goodreads below, because every single book that I read, I review and do a thorough interview of it, so you want to know more of my thoughts of Aristotle and Dante, or anything else that I've talked about already, or that I'm going to talk about. Go there. I talk about the characters and the plots, and how I feel overall for every single book I read. But this, everyone knows it's basically about a girl who is allergic to everything, and then one day, she never leaves her house, she never really wants to, and then one day a cute boy moves in next door. I was super intrigued to pick this up, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The things that people are saying it's problematic about, I don't see anything problematic about Maddie and Ollie. I didn't like how things were handled towards the end, in terms of her mother and stuff. I think that on the author's part, I think that was that storyline and that part of the plot was a good plot point, but that it was handled very offensively. If you want to understand what I'm saying, because I'm trying not to be spoilery, read my review. It's there. But I loved Maddie and Ollie. I loved their relationship together. I really enjoyed this. Because I was so conflicted with my emotions about this, I still am constantly ranging between 4 or 4.5 out of 5 stars of what to rate this. But I did thoroughly enjoy this, and I would recommend it. Next, I read Tied Up by Jessie Fuchs or something. I don't know. This is a raunchy LGBT novel about a teenage, well, not teenage, early 20s, a boy who's in his early 20s who, next door living to him is this guy who's kind of a dominatrix dude, and he can hear stuff that's going on next door, and he kind of wants to have this relationship with this guy. This is a series, but I still feel like this was incredibly poorly fleshed out, for a first novel in general. I get that there's more going on, in the other books, but I felt like the characterization was just had potential and it wasn't fulfilled. The plot had potential, it wasn't fulfilled. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It was free, and it was like steamy and well written, I think, but I just think that the potential was there and it wasn't fulfilled. I don't know if that makes sense, but read it for yourself. It's really short. Next, I found this in the free bin at Second and Charles, The Civil Rights Movement, by Heather Adamson. When I was little and I was in elementary school, I was always obsessed with learning more about, like, the civil rights movement and how, like, African American people were trying to fight for their rights in America, and just, it makes me hate America so much to know how they were like, how sexist it was, how homophobic it was, how racist it was, how we're still there, and Trump's America is just getting worse. But yeah, I was like, this is short and it seems fun. It's an interactive book, so basically we have things like there's 2 like black girl students who are trying to go to an all-white school to like integrate it. You can either choose to lead a protest against it, like, and be like ignorant, I guess, or you can choose to try to help her, but you could lose your job or stuff like that. And it's such an interesting and good way to show how messed up society was that day, that even if you wanted to be a good person, sometimes that could just like screw up your entire life. And it was upsetting because of that fact, but the thing is, it was necessary, and I think that anybody, like, this should be taught in schools. It was really good. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and yeah. Next we move on to The Slave by Kate Aaron, first book in the Free Men series, free on Kindle. I've read this, obviously I've talked about this a lot before. This was a reread for me. It's about a guy, a slave named Tam, who one day is sent out by his master to buy a new slave, kind of a companion slave. And he ends up kind of falling in love with this new slave, and it's weird because he's never had any emotions or feelings for anyone other than his master, and it's so cute, it's so good. It's also kind of like a fantasy-esque thing where they're in war. The first time I read this, I gave it a 4 or 4.5 out of 5 stars, and rereading it, I'm like, dude, it's a 5 stars for me. I love this book so much. I love returning to it. I read it so quickly because I just love, it's so easy, but it's so, like, poetic and flowery, the writing. Yes, I loved this. Next, for booktube-a-thon, I read The Soldier by Kate Aaron, the second book in the Free Men series. That's why I reread The Slave, because it had been a year since I read it, and I wanted to refresh my memory before jumping into this one. This follows Kai's point of view, someone that, you're following a lot in the first book, but in the second book you get his perspective. I loved it so much. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I liked it slightly less than the other one because the other one has so much romance in it, and this one, while you could still see the fact that everyone still cares for each other a lot, it's a lot more focused on the war aspect, and so I still enjoyed it and thought it was really well fleshed out, but I was craving that kind of romance aspect of it. But I still love the series, and I still want to finish it and own it in physical copy eventually. Okay. Yeah, most of the books that I read are fine for all ages besides the ebooks. Overwhelming Force is fine. Like I said, the sex is really low-key. The Slave has a lot of sex. The Soldier doesn't really. That's why I said there was, like, nothing. Tied Up obviously does have a lot. And this one it doesn't have any sex in it, but it's kind of slightly inappropriate. The cover makes it look a lot more inappropriate than it is. Let me tell you that. But, yeah. This is Citrus, Volume 1. The story and the art is both by Sabu Ruta, and it's about these girls who go to a prep school together, and this girl gets taken out of her old school, and she has to go to an all-girls school now, and the vice president of the school is kind of like a mega bitch, and she ends up being like her new stepsister. I don't know if that's a spoiler or if it says it, but they kind of fall in love, and it's the complication with them. I really want to read more of the series. It was so cute. This video is getting long, but yes, I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, we're going to try to rush this last half. Next, for booktube-a-thon, I read Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertelli. Everyone knows the plot of this, basically, because everyone's heard of this. Simon, he's gay, he has a internet relationship with a boy named Blue. They kind of don't know who one another is. They just know that they go to the same school, and then this guy decides to start blackmailing Simon when he finds the emails. This, again, I thought it's really overhyped. Hopefully it won't be underwhelming for me. I loved it so much. It is one of my new favorite contemporaries of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite books that I've read this year. 5 out of 5 stars. Next is a book that was a gift from my sister, and that is Tank Girl Volume 2 by Hewitt and Martin. This was very gritty and very, like, they even admit in the thing, like, in the written parts that they have, that they were on drugs when they wrote some of this, because it's very trippy, it's a lot, it's dark, it's not for children, but I loved it so much. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because there was quite a few stories mixed up in here where Tank Girl wasn't even in them, and I didn't care for those. I only loved the ones that she was in. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on, like, the rest of these booktube-a-thon books, because I'm going to try to go quick with them, watch my booktube-a-thon wrap-up. Then I read Shut Up by Cody Keplinger. It's very feminist. I loved it. I was like, yes. And I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing by Judy Blume. This is a reread, but I haven't read it in over 10 years. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I'm pretty sure I read more than one novella, but the one that I remember and that stands out to me most was the one that I read for booktube-a-thon, which is Nothing But Shadows. 5 out of 5 stars, my favorite one of the short story compilation so far. Sorry if I'm being incoherent, because I'm trying to be really fast. Last one I read was one of the short stories in here, the first one, In Stone Mattress by Margaret Atwood. It's called Elfinland, and it's like about a woman who is older and she's remembering her relationship with her husband, and she kind of feels like she hears his voice and all that stuff, and she has this other world she goes to called Elfinland. It was good, but it was too short to get too invested in. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and that is everything I've read. That's a lot of stuff. I'm sorry that this video is so long. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you want to see more of my face and my books. Bye.